Hi, everybody, and welcome to the review of Magic Millions 2026 with Straight Talk. Bren O'Brien and Tim Rowe with you. Podcast, of course, brought to you by Inglis and Darley. Tim, we're done and dusted with book one. Obviously, the main part of the sale is book two to come on Sunday, but we'll look back at what we saw in this week. Just looking quickly at the overall numbers, I mean, they stand up pretty strong year on year. I think it's a fifth consecutive year over $200 million spent, just under $203 million in gross. Average is $272,000. The median price was $200,000. That was pretty consistent throughout the week, and the clearance, most positive, was sort of 86.3%. I think Magic Millions would walk away pretty satisfied with how business worked. It's a very consistent sale across the week.
If you put those numbers in front of Barry Bowditch and the Magic Millions team, I think before the sale, they definitely would have taken them. And it sets a nice platform for the rest of the year. There was a lot of competition on the right horses and a lot of people wandering around and buying horses.
Yeah, I think that's probably the overwhelming thing is actually looking across the board is, the stats, what they will, and we'll probably do a bit more analysis next week through our Run the Numbers column and a few other things that we sort of do during the week. But, it just seemed that there were more buyers and more people. I exactly just had a look through the numbers there. I think there were 365 individual buyers on lines, albeit some buyers are buy with different partners or whatever else, but there's 365 different. That's the most. I've gone back to 2017. I can't find a higher number than that. So that's a good sign that, there's that breadth of buying. I think last year there were 6 sires that grossed over $10 million. This year there are only 3. Now, the big sires like Anamoe, and Snitzel actually grossed less this year than last year. What that tells us is that the money's being spread elsewhere, which is a net positive for the market. There's so many sort of indicators there that it was a very even market, and that's what you want to see because we've probably seen over the case of the last few years of 1 or 2 buyers or 3 or 4 buyers coming in and spending a lot of money or buying a lot of horses and distorting where the true market is. I think at this level, where this end of the market is, and we're probably talking the middle of the top end, it looks pretty positive.
And even talking about vendors there as well, Brendan, there was 7 vendors, I should say, that all grossed more than $10 million, which again spread it round. We've seen vendors in the past, and it's a function of where they choose to send some of their better horses. There's Easter and Melbourne Premier and so forth. But that spread of vendors all getting a look at the ice cream, so to speak. I think previously, say Newgate Farm, when they've topped vendors list, they've gone 20 million plus and possibly things like that. So. The money again spread around the vendors as well. Yeah.
And I think that's no points to an even market. If you're looking at the health of the market, we'll get to a chat with Barry Bowditch in a minute, but clearance rate was obviously the clear highlight. It was the lowest in 14 years last year at a sort of 81, 82%, and this year it's bounced right back to sort of north of 86%. It just shows you the market's got good expectations of one another at, and probably the vendors and those who are out there to buy horses were both sort of pretty aligned on the value of the horses. And so, I mean, that will give some faith moving forward for the rest of the season that everyone's sort of on the same, there's no guarantees, but everyone's sort of on the same page about, where bloodstock value sits at the moment.
And, the decision by Magic Millions just to short or tighten up the catalogue a little bit, sacrifice possibly some turnover just to increase that competition among buyers. And what that does is the vendors they've done well go, maybe I'll send a couple of better credentialed horses or more of them to Magic Millions next year as opposed to, say, Inglis. And that happens with Inglis and their Easter sale too, particularly where they chose to reduce the size of their catalogues at times just to heighten that competition and probably help them in 2027.
When looking at this going back to the side diversity, also where things are at, but I guess at the top end, probably what stood out was the fact that Snitzel remind me, how was there $15 million lots? Tim, you wrote it yesterday.
Yes, there's 15. Yeah, 15.
Of those, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Snitzels. He had an extraordinary sale. Obviously, there's a little bit of the limited edition product notion about him, given we've lost him in the middle of last year. But he's an extraordinary sire. We've highlighted his 2-year-old credentials. He's a 4-time champion Australian sire. He deserves to be at the very top end. Extreme Choice, such a rare article, and they're so in demand. Similar to Frankels, Southern Hemisphere bred Frankels. I'm Invincible, I think, had 1, 2, 3, 4 $1 million lots as well. So you look at those ones and you sit there and go, well, not surprising that a Snitzel, I'm Invincible, Extreme Choice, and a Frankel would all have million lots. But another side joined them yesterday, Tim, which was interesting, and Anamoe. And he's obviously a side that brings enormous credentials, being a champion Australian racehorse, being a 9-time Group 1 winner. Expectations of him were very high this sale. We've spoken about him a bit more, but that result yesterday sort of capped off what was a pretty extraordinary week for him.
And there was talk about that horse all the way leading into the sale that he probably was the number one seed for Anamoe, and he delivered with going to Kieran Maher, who obviously trained Spywire, running one last weekend at the Gold Coast. And depending when you listen to this, he's running certainly on this Saturday. So, understandable why they would, bid up high and get him into the stable. Spywire's been a good horse for the connections.
Yeah, so that was what we're also talking about is the Anamoe colt out of Secret Trail, of course. Yeah. And Tim, you had a good chat with Anthony Thompson, who sold him from Widden. And it's kind of a funny one, isn't it? Because you always feel when you're talking to someone who's selling a horse by a side that's not theirs, there was a little bit guarded about how they promote the side, but it was interesting sort of listening, and then you'll hear in a minute. But, Anthony's quite happy to big up a side that he thinks is going to be really important for the industry, isn't it?
For sure, and I don't know whether he and Robert Anderson are keeping a leg or keeping a percentage in that horse. I know they really rate him, and maybe they will, and hope that he goes and does the job, and ends up at stud. What was interesting, and talking to Will Bourne, who's signed for the horse and obviously picked him out, said he's actually quite a bulky, strong horse, and so some people consensus may be he will get too heavy and would need gelding, but Will said as soon as he moved, he was like a really athletic horse and carried his frame very well. So that's why he was well sought after and, very well-bred horse.
And here's what Anthony Thompson had to say about that particular purchase and also about how he saw the sale.
Anthony, a great result there, I guess, justifying his support of a great first season stallion. He got the pedigree update last weekend, or a bit of money in the bank for Kieran to go hard, and a lot of competition. I think Mick Price might have been underbid a possibly.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but certainly Kieran's timing with Spywire was perfect last week, and of course running tomorrow. So a lot of enthusiasm and love for Spywire in that camp, and having such a good-looking half brother, the timing was perfect. The comments this week, and the horse was inspected, I think 280 times, was the most looking Anamoe in the sale, or the one that looks most like his dad. So he was a beautiful horse. He never turned a hair. The team did a magnificent job. He just couldn't have presented any better. And, it's a fantastic result for a first season sire to crack that $1 million mark. It's a very hard thing to do. And so we're really, really thrilled to do that.
What's the history with now obviously it's a good producer, but the history with her and then deciding to send her to a first season stallion? She could go to a proven stallion, of course.
Yeah, she's a mare that we bought. Robert Anderson and myself bought off the track from Triple Crown, head of Snowden trainer, and we've, made it to, with really commercial stallions in mind. Obviously, she had the highest priced, I think, trapeze artist of the first season sire, and I just thought she's a little neat sort of fast mare, and she'd really suit Anamoe. And obviously, he was a terrific racehorse, and he was always going to have a lot of commercial appeal. So, and the mating looked pretty good. So, it was a pretty easy thing to do, and it was great to see such a magnificent horse from the day he's born right through to today. He's never done anything but impress. So we're really thrilled, to see him so popular and sell so well.
How have you found this week? Widden had, and even industry had, since statistics say pretty good sale. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, the numbers were very similar to last year on all our inspections and all our data, and the market's been up, and the clearance rate, more importantly, has been up again. So they're all really positive signs, and it sets us up for a really healthy year around all the sales. Magic Millions sets the tone for the sales season, and to have such a positive week here with so many great things happening in the sales ring and, across the road as well on the racetrack, and the events that Katie Page drives, just the cut through of the Magic Millions Carnival and the way it drags people from all walks of life into put the spotlight on the industry, I think is phenomenal. It's great for all of us. And as an industry, I think we can't thank Jerry, Harvey and Katie Page enough for everything they do for us this week.
The following segment is brought to you by Darley. When the Spring Carnival wrapped up, the picture was clear. Darley Stallions topped the table with 42 stakes wins, well ahead of imported horses and those bred in New Zealand. Almost 30 victories were delivered by client-bred runners, showing strength from early 2-year-olds to elite Group 1 racers. Consistency, depth and performance when it mattered most. By Darley at Magic Millions. Yeah, so Tim, it's like interesting to hear from people like Anthony who've got their finger on the pulse of the industry. They obviously, go into the start of the season, with an expectation of where things would land. And I think, most of the vendors would be happy about where things have landed because they know it's a pretty true market at the moment and they can get in there and get the good horses in front of them. Yeah, and I think, the other thing too is like for those first season size to work out where the market sits with them because the market doesn't lie about its sentiment. It doesn't always get it right. There's been plenty of examples where the most expensive first season sire hasn't ended up being the best sire. But, it is interesting to sort of see that where that sentiment around a horse like Anamoe sits, given his, I guess, the recency of his racing career still fresh in everybody's mind.
And it wasn't surprising, as we say, about Anamoe, but, the Jacquinot, the market really gravitated towards Jacquinot, and he had multiple really quite expensive horses that especially offer a $30,000 service fee. So breeders really did well out of Jacquinot. I think that was probably evident in the market, as you say, with gravitating to Snitzel at the top end and Anamoe and the first season sires. Talking to a few agents and buyers and things, they really saw value in those second, third season stallions like Stay Inside, Fun, and really nice horses. But it's just a cycle of the market with stallions. They've got to really prove it. And Ole Kirk was even thrown in there. He's got a lot of nice horses out there that either lightly raced or, you think he's going to have a decent autumn with these 2 and 3-year-olds.
Yeah. And we'll see how that pans out. Yeah, I said Magic Millions at the start of the week would definitely have taken this result. It's been a really good week. There hasn't been too many issues. There was a couple of technical issues, a couple of points there during the start, but nothing went wrong. Pretty much it worked out well up until this point. It looks like this stage on Saturday morning as we're speaking to you, like it's not going to belt down with rain and ruin the race day, which I've had a lot of issues with of late. So, they would be very pleased with how the week proceeded. As we spoke to Barry, or you spoke to Barry, and we'll have that in a minute. But yeah, I mean, from their perspective, he spoke to Jerry yesterday. We're going to have some stuff on there, Jerry Harvey yesterday. I mean, what was his perception of where things are at and, how things are sort of tracking for Magic Millions?
Oh, look, and I asked him, it is 40 years since the first Magic Millions sale and 39 since Snippets won the $1 million race. Jerry at 86, he's a remarkable person. He's still very positive. He loves the horse business. And, he's thrilled where the market is and that, when we play that audio sort of later in the week and write a story about it, that he sees the racing industry still as a great pastime for people, and the young Jerry Harveys, the entrepreneurs, the successful business people in the 30s and 40s, to start investing in racing and in a bigger way. And so he's quite positive even at 86. I'm looking forward to the future. He's fitter than certainly me and a lot of, he's the fittest 86-year-old that you'll see going around, that's for sure.
It is, yeah. I mean, his energy and Katie's energy, like they give a lot to this. They've built this up, and yeah, I mean, there is an aspect of, there's a lot of marketing around Magic Millions, but it is an amazing week. Like, it is amazing to be here. Anyway, we'll cross across to that chat with Barry Bowditch now after the sale and what he thought about how things have proceeded during the week.
Barry, end of book one, you must be, or are you reasonably pretty satisfied given you've ticked over 200 million with a smaller catalogue for, that mark's been broken for the 5th year in a row?
Yeah, I'm delighted. Obviously, 200 million was a real goal leading in, but, to have 40 less horses catalogued, and I think there was 20 plus more withdrawals and some significant withdrawals in recent days, it was pleasing to get close to last year's gross, obviously to increase the clearance rate. I think the clearance rate's nudging towards 86% now, and on average that's up on last year. I think all the key numbers are reflective of what we believe leading in was a strong catalogue.
Obviously, it's 40 years of Magic Millions. What do you put that extra competition down to an increasing clearance rate?
I think we worked hard to get the best buying bench we possibly could. I think there was a lot of traders here. There was a good diverse bunch from a lot of the regional areas, whether it be Western Australia, South Australia. Queensland was great. The New Zealanders and through Asia were fantastic. So I think it was a diverse buying bench, but we really ensured that, we marketed the sale that people would come up here and have a great selection of horses within all budgets that they had.
Yeah, the familiar names, Chris Waller and Tom Magner and Coolmore, active, very strong at the top, and Gay Waterhouse and Kieran Ma, but even some Japanese money too was they were very strong as well.
They were. I think what pleased me, I think there was the spread of buyers. I think, obviously there was like 362 different lines of buyers and different names on the results sheet, but of those buyers, there's 47, I think it was 45 buyers that spent $1 million or more, which is a big spread across the sale. And, it's showing that there's a great thirst for yearlings in Australia, and there's a great thirst for Magic Millions product, which is evident this week. It's been busy from the time that, we turn the lights on at 11 a.m. on Tuesday morning.
Sometimes there's a bit of negativity or, throughout the industry for, valid reasons, quite possibly, but seems to be this fair bit of confidence in the market, particularly going forward to the other sales down English and New Zealand as well, that, you do have set a solid market.
Yeah, I think it's a very genuine, it's a very positive start. I think, off the back of this, I think our vendors in Australia are very, very genuine. They're very eager to put their horse in the market and let the market set what they're worth. And that was evident through the last 4 days. I think, the clearance rate, kudos to the vendors for, meeting the market and giving the buyers opportunity to, get in and have confidence to support it.
And heading into Sunday, possibly, slightly different market, but you're confident of how that'll play out?
Yeah, I think we've got a good group of yearlings. I think it's a sale that's been, from a graduate's perspective, obviously Knight's Choice won a Melbourne Cup winner this sale. The likes of Hootson won a Magic Millions, and there's many good horses at this sale each year. I think, when you look through the races tomorrow, there'll be a lot of Book 2 horses running from Book 2, so there'll be value to be found. It was a good day from inspections, I hear, out in the grounds, which I think it was great to be able to get all the yearlings in and get them inspected today and give them the opportunity tomorrow to have more inspections prior to the races and during the races. And 12 o'clock start on Sunday, 240 lots. And I think the one-day concept hopefully gets everyone here Sunday afternoon and gives them, an enjoyable afternoon at Magic Millions and the opportunity to buy a horse at value.
The following segment is brought to you by Inglis. The English Premier Yearling Sale catalogue is now available online. From March 1st to 3rd, Oaklands Junction in Melbourne will once again serve as the focal point of the bloodstock world, with 806 yearlings catalogued across 3 days of selling. This year's catalogue features progeny from 110 individual stallions. The Premier Sale has consistently produced racetrack success. Graduates include the past 3 winners of the Everest offered at public auction, Ballinipatina, Think About It, and Nature Strip, as well as 34 Group 1 winners since 2018, with 16 purchased for $100,000 or less. English Premier Yearling Sale runs March 1 to 3 at Oaklands Junction in Melbourne. To view the catalogue, visit english.com.au. Yeah, so a big week on the Gold Coast effectively wraps up, Tim. I said there's still the Book 2 aspect tomorrow, which we'll have coverage of, but we've sort of got a really good idea of the pulse. And we don't have much time to draw breath because you and I think in 5 days' time are jumping on a plane to go across the Tasman to go see our good friends in New Zealand, the New Zealand Bloodstock Sale. We'll have a similar coverage of their major sale. But yeah, I mean, Australian and New Zealand markets are a little bit different, but we're talking about similar buyers, and there's probably a little bit that NZB and Glen from this heading to their sale next week.
I think they'll take confidence to that. And it's like 40 years for Magic Millions, it's 100 years of New Zealand National Yearling Sales. A really significant year. Similarly, they've poured a lot of money into marketing and just promoting and acknowledging the history of the New Zealand sales and horses. So it'll be a big weekend. I know you haven't been before, Bren, so I know you'll thoroughly enjoy it. The hospitality is fantastic. The race days, it's exciting. They're great atmosphere. So looking forward to catching up with our Kiwi friends and basically the travelling road show that head straight over there. We'll see all the same faces. I know some have already flown out. I think John Foote, who just, one of the great agents, he flew out on Friday. He needs to look at every horse, and that's why he finds plenty of good ones, because he doesn't dismiss anything. So
yeah, it is a tight It is a very tight calendar this year. We'll move pretty quickly on to the English Classic Sale, of course, and then we'll have the other sales in Perth and Tassie. We have the English Premier Sale coming up in late February, early March. I think it's 1st of March this year, yeah. And then Easter as it comes up early as well. And there's an Adelaide sale to throw in there as well, and the March sale here, and it is truly an never-ending carnival. But as I said, we'll come out of this one with a fair bit of positivity, the market will, and sort of work into the rest of the year. And we'll see how it pans out. So thanks so much for joining us for our reviews of each day of of the Magic Millions Gold Coast 2026 sale. Yeah, we'll endeavour to do something similar in New Zealand, Tim, and bring people up to date. Just a quick shout out to a mate of ours, Brian, who we ran into the Gold Coast this week. He was a man that found fame during, I think last year we gave him a bit of a shout out when we, on this podcast, when we ran into him outside the Randwick race as well. He bobbed up at Magic Millions this week and maybe a couple of bars along the way. And it was nice to catch up with Brian. His lovely wife, Julia, wasn't up here, unfortunately, but Brian was certainly drinking enough for two, and he had a very enjoyable week. But it's good to meet people that are so passionate about racing. And that's the thing about this game, Tim, that makes it so enjoyable, is that you talk to people and sometimes you feel like, oh, it's an industry, but there's no industry where people are so passionate about, is there?
Well, it falls over without the passion because, unfortunately, not every horse lives up to expectations. But by and large, everyone still keeps diving in, chasing the next diamond. And, they're great people from all walks of life. And, that's why I enjoy it and keep fronting up. And, there's, as I said, heading to New Zealand, there'll be a lot of interesting stories and people as well.
True. Well, we'll catch you then. Thank you for your time. Again, thanks to our sponsors, Inglis and Darley, for their support. And we'll talk to you again soon.